Hi there, in this video I'll be sharing with you 5 tips for recording better sound effects at home. So whether you have some noise in your recordings or you just don't feel like you're getting the most out of the sounds that you're getting around your house, or if you just want to know how to better utilize your gear and how to set it up to make the most out of it, we're going to cover all that in this video. So with that said, let's get right into it with number 1. All right, number 1 is going to be to reduce environmental noise. Now this might seem really obvious, but it is a very common culprit in recordings. So whenever I go and I start to work on a sound pack or a project that I want to work on, and I'm recording things around my house, one of the first things to seep into my recordings is always going to be environmental noise. Common ones for me are fans, especially if they're in their like next door rooms. A lot of the times you don't think that they'll make it through the recordings, but they actually do. Other things that are culprits, like things like furnaces, lights, computers, and just people walking around. So you always want to make sure that you can control as much as you can of the environment that you are in, and make sure that everything is kind of turned off and just as quiet as possible so that you can get the cleanest recordings possible. A quick tip for doing this is to actually record in something like a closet. Usually closets will have a lot of clothes in them, which is great for dampening sound, and whatever you're recording in there will be super clean and super quiet. So that's a great tip if you ever find yourself having a difficulty recording some clean sounds in your house. All right, number 2 is going to be to reduce equipment noise. Now, this is a bit more challenging to deal with because you basically get what you pay for. So in your recorders, usually the culprits for that are the preamps. Inside of your microphone, you'll also have some noise out of there, and you can also get some noise from your cable. So for each of these, you basically get what you pay for. For microphones in general, however, usually when you get to about the $100 range, the self-noise starts to become a non-issue. In terms of recorders, this is where I kind of suggest to perhaps invest a bit more money into, or looking more into where you're putting your money when you're buying a professional recorder. So when I started out, I actually had a Zoom H6, and it was great. It's a great starting place for recording sound effects, especially around your house and whenever you're doing whatever kind of sounds. But what I found is that every time I was recording some sort of like ambient sounds or just quiet sounds in general, I found there was a lot of noise in my recordings, and I couldn't really figure out why that was. And what it ended up being was the preamps in the recorder itself. It wasn't until I switched over and I purchased a Zoom F6 that I realized that preamps can be actually a lot quieter. And here's, like I said before, this is where you get what you pay for. It's a lot more expensive to buy something like a Zoom F6 or something that has really clean preamps, but when you do, you can get really, really clean recordings. All right, finally, cables. Cables are not usually a culprit, at least in my experience. I've purchased like really inexpensive and cheap cables, XLR cables and things, and I've never really had an issue. The only time I've had an issue is if I place the cables anywhere near some sort of electrical source or anything like that. But usually I try to stay away from that, and it's not a non-issue. So that's it for cables. Hey, I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the video, but if you're a video game sound designer, I have a little gift for you. It's my Sound Designer Starter Pack. There's over 900 sound effects in there that you can use royalty-free for your personal projects or even commercial projects. So if you're interested in getting that, make sure to check the link below in the description. All right, let's get back to it. All right, let's move on to number 3, which is going to be your signal to noise ratio. So signal to noise ratio basically means that your signal is what you want to record, and then your noise is what you don't want to record. So what is the ratio between those two sources? Basically, everything we've talked about so far has been to try to eliminate as much of the noise out of the equation as possible so that we can get as much of a clean sound recording as possible. And basically here, the tip is to just record as close as possible to the source that you want to record so that you can eliminate or at least reduce the noise of everything that you don't want in your recording. If you can do that, you'll get a pretty clean recording. All right, number 4 is to watch your levels. So this is not so much an issue anymore with a lot of the 32-bit recorders that are coming out, and I suspect it will not be an issue in the future. But for those who are still recording in 24-bit, always keep your eye on your levels. You never want your levels to peak above into the red zone. So use a limiter to help you control that, but always keep an eye on your levels of things that you're recording so that it never peak and distort your sound. All right, number 5 is to listen with headphones. So this is super important, and the reason for that is that every time you listen to whatever it is you're recording through the microphones, they're always going to sound different because every pair of microphone is going to be different. Every microphone is going to be unique and sound a little bit different. And as you're listening to it, you're going to hear things that you probably wouldn't be hearing if you didn't wear headphones while you were recording. This can be everything from noise, everything from unwanted sounds. A lot of the times when I'm recording, I realize that I have like a wire that's like tapping on the side of something as I'm recording. I'm like, what is that sound? Why is it clicking and stuff? So it's always good to just have headphones on so that you can hear what you're recording, hear what's coming through into the field recorder so that you can get as clean as possible of a sound. And it also helps you to just know how to perform the sound to get the best angle and performance out of whatever it is that you are recording. All right, I also had 2 extra bonuses for you for having really good sound effects recording at home. The first one is to use multiple microphones whenever possible. So for example, for me, I like to have contact mics and stick them on whatever surface I am recording. And with that, I can get some different perspectives of the sound that I'm recording. And so that when I do bring it into my computer, into post, I have a lot more flexibility in terms of the sound that I want. Usually the contact mics are more like mid-focused. My regular microphones are more high-end, mid and high-end focused. And then I also have a lone geophone, which is another contact microphone that I can use, which is a lot more low-end focused. So with that, I can kind of blend between different microphone positions and get a really cool and full sound that I just couldn't get with just my regular microphones. All right, and finally, tip number 2 is to do some post-processing on your sounds. So once you load your sounds inside your computer, there's a ton of different software out there for removing noise. I use RX denoise, and on there you can just basically select the profile of the noise of the room. So I always record 10 seconds of silence before I start recording anything. And then once I have those 10 seconds, I can use that as the profile for the noise. And then I can remove that across my entire recording so that I have a clean recording. Now you can do this inside of Audacity, and there's also a whole bunch of other plugins that you can use. It doesn't really matter, but do a bit of post-processing. It'll definitely help your sounds. All right, so that's it. I hope you found that useful and valuable. Is there a tip that I miss or that you use when you are recording sound effects at home that you think would be valuable? Why don't you share it down below? I'd love to hear it, and I'm sure everybody else who's watching this video would also love to learn from you as well. So why don't you go ahead and share it. If you have any comments or questions as well, please leave it down below. And if you want to see another video I made about my gear, my equipment, and what I use to record sound effects at my house, I'll make sure to put that in the cards above. So if you do want to check it out, it'll be there for you to have a look at. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching all the way through to the end, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.